Despite the Rams win last night, how do the Vikings avoid bottoming out like the Rams did this year? Now, we do know Baker Mayfield came in. Now, I will say this. The Raiders did it to themselves. They grittied. I don't know if anybody saw it. But after the punt, these idiots were grittying around the ball like, oh, that's a great punt. Let's gritty and celebrate because we're about to win this. That is the equivalent of Sean Payton's skull chanting in US Bank Stadium right before the Minneapolis Miracle. Like, you never celebrate too early, ever. I don't care who's at quarterback. Now, I do know with Tom Brady, you don't do it. I do know that. I know with Aaron Rodgers, you don't do it. With Baker Mayfield, maybe you feel like you can do it. But hey, you succumb to it too. You idiots. You do not gritty on a punt. You didn't even punt the ball. If the punter had gritty, I get it. But anyway, this is not what we're talking about. How do the Vikings avoid ending up like the Rams and bottoming out and kind of having a rough year? And the Rams don't even get the benefit and get their draft picks because they gave those picks to the Lions. So the Lions right now are cheering for every Rams loss, which last night I know they weren't happy with. But I think they hope down the stretch Baker Mayfield can't continue to get it done. Now, if he finds a way to win the next 4 games, I'm going to be like, wow, Sean McVay is a genius. It's Sean McVay the whole time. It was Sean McVay. But I'm going to start with you, Luke. How do the Vikings avoid that next year?
Yeah, first of all, that game last night was incredible. The biggest problem with the Rams, and they knew this was going to happen, they sold their soul for a Super Bowl. They pushed every last chip all in, mortgaged the future, and it worked. They got their ring, but now they're in the nightmare stage of that Super Bowl dream. It started with having no draft picks, no young talent to step in when the superstars they traded for are either gone or they're hurt. 7 straight years without a first-round draft pick. It's eventually going to catch up to any team. Vikings need to have a draft next year that nets at least a few impact guys, and then they need guys from this year's draft to come back and make an impact in 23 as well. Seen and Booth, obviously the easy ones, but then even guys like Brian Asamoah, Caleb Evans, maybe even Ty Chandler. And I'm not saying every one of those guys needs to be a Pro Bowler, but the glue in between the cracks of your roster is what day 2 and day 3 of the draft is all about. It finally caught up to the Rams team. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the Vikings young guys to kind of develop and step up and play a bigger role here soon if they want to avoid that Rams collapse. But I think they will avoid it because, again, even though they haven't hit these drafts out of the park, no home runs, they still have a lot of young talent waiting to be developed there behind the scenes.
Sam, what you got?
Yeah, Luke's right. He hits on a lot of key points. The Rams are very top-heavy. Then they were top-heavy last year, too. They kind of defied logic that they were able to win a Super Bowl because they lost a lot of quality starters before that season. It happened to work out. The Stafford-McVay partnership, the Kevin O'Connell influence, that all led to a Super Bowl victory. But now they're stuck with a quarterback who, and we knew Matthew Stafford had inconsistencies. He was inconsistent and now injured. And they've got some absurd contracts on that. Like, I don't know what they're operating under for a cap, but $12 million to Bobby Wagner next year, $22 million for Leonard Floyd, $26 for Aaron Donald, $15 for Joseph Noteboom, $8 million for Rob Havenstein, $8 million for Tyler Higbee. Shall I continue? Because there's more. I won't because it's boring, but they've just got so much salary baggage. They're going to need to make some tough decisions, and that's where the Vikings have to make tough decisions too. They are also a top-heavy team in the salary cap. They're probably going to need to make some difficult choices to stay cap compliant, bring in some younger guys that are cheaper.
Reginald.
Yeah, I think they should just stay aggressive. I think the Rams problem, because my brother is a huge Rams fan still, even though they left us. So their demise is my joy right about now. But I think the reason why they are so terrible is because, like, they have no depth. And it's to Luke's point, like, they sold their souls, man. You know, Les Snead went, MJ, F them picks, and just ended up just giving all of it away to get guys like Jalen Ramsey and, it was OBJ, got Allen Robinson. And the problem is all these guys, like, are hurt and they have no depth, like Allen Robinson on IR. Matthew Stafford basically done for the season. They had nothing at the running back position. this was just like a cornucopia of terrible things happening to them. That offensive line, they lost Andrew Whitworth, porous right now. So like the Vikings just need to make sure they get some depth, because suffering those type of injuries at so many key positions has been catastrophic for the Rams.
Yeah, here's where I go with it. I honestly, I think it's definitely injury based. You look at the Rams, Cooper Kupp. You look at Matthew Stafford. I think that's one key. When you lose those two guys, Cooper Kupp is that offense. We know that now when you see how anemic they can be on third downs, how tough it is to find a guy to get open, because we understand Kevin O'Connell's offense now is a lot of choice routes, a lot of option routes. The Rams is that on steroids. Like every other route was a choice route. I talked to a couple Vikings players about the offense and how many different variations of routes are within the route tree, which is probably why some of the Kirk Cousins throws, you're like, oh, why did he do this and why did the receiver do that? It's because there is a choice. And if the quarterback and the receiver aren't on the same page of where the guy's lining up, it's going to be a bad throw. But this is what I'll say, injury. I think injury is going to be the key to this. How healthy can the Vikings get to next year? And then I think Sam hit it. It's the contracts. Which contracts can you unload that do not matter and you do not need these players in order to make up for that gap? Because to being able to sign new guys in the offseason, not so much veteran guys to add, but even if you're signing your draft picks, like that's the tough thing when you're coming down to signing your draft picks and you got to find money. That's when there's a problem. So yeah, I think some of these bigger contracts with the Vikings of guys that they're like, look, I don't know if you're worth 50 million or 40 million anymore or 30 million. It's going to be some tough offseason conversations, but Kevin O'Connell's got to decide who matters most. And my guess it starts with number 18 and then you work your way down.
Here's the $1 million question too for Vikings fans that always gets thrown out every year. Would you take one Super Bowl win if the next decade or maybe even 2 decades was just garbage? Like, would you go through what the Rams are going through now times 50 for one Super Bowl? I think if you ask a lot of Vikings fans, they say, yeah, I would do it. A lot of people just want one. And that's what the Rams did. They mortgaged the future to go all in and get one.
Okay, I was wondering where you're going with that, Luke. I was a little concerned because I'm like, the answer is definitely yes. Because it's been since 1961, there's been 0. So I'm pretty sure they would take one and go to 2000. Like they would take one now and be okay to 2061 without getting another Super Bowl 100%. If they got one right now. So 2061, that's probably when the aliens are coming, according to Sam. So 100, would that be 100 years of the league? Yeah, that'd be 100 years of the league, wouldn't it? Yeah, 100 years of the league. Aliens
the Vikings will have a Super Bowl roster in 2061, and then aliens will invade. And in
2061, Sam, what will you be? Like 70 something?
I will be exactly 70.
Yeah, see, there you go. So you'll be 70 and you'll be ready for the probe.